Hello, everyone. It's Dr. Toya, and I am back with another episode of the by default Black Doctor Spotlight. And I have another wonderful doc with me. And we really not only want to focus on doctors doing clinical practice, but doing other things as well, because we have so much to offer as physicians. So, Dr. Sherita is no exception. I am joined by, let me give you her full name, Dr. Sherita Gaskins Tillett. She is an OBGYN and the facilitator of A Weekend for Me. Welcome, Dr. Sherita.
Thank you, Dr. Toy. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. I always have a special place in my heart for OBGYNs because that's my specialty, even though you left us for
Not
non-clinical.
completely, not completely.
That's okay. No, but you're providing a great service. And I really want to read something that you have on your website because I just think it's so wonderful. So, Dr. Sharita is an OBGYN, mother, wife, daughter, sister, friend, wellness enthusiast, event planner, and last but far from least, a functional hot mess. So she is basically all of us. And that's why I want to make sure that you guys knew who we were dealing with, right? So
Don't
I
let the
like
doctor part fool you.
exactly. We are just like everybody else. All right. So before we get into A Weekend for Me, tell all of you a little bit more about you and how you got into this space.
Okay, so I'm an OBGYN by training, as we talked about. I am mostly non-clinical and have been for the last 3 years. I do an occasional hospitalist shift, and I've actually just transitioned to doing a few hours in the office each week.
Oh,
So I do still keep my toe in the OBGYN world, but I am mostly non-clinical. I'd like to say that I became non-clinical as a very conscious choice, but I can't tell that story because that's not how it happened. It happened that I was in a traditional OBGYN practice and there were some administrative changes that kind of forced my hand to make some decisions. And so at that time, I started to look around and see what my options might be. Initially, I transitioned into a hospitalist role. I pivoted a few more times. I nicknamed myself the Pivot Queen. I pivoted a few more times after that, and now am completely non-clinical.
gotcha. Okay. So why did you get into this wellness space? What was going on in your life or what had you experienced?
Yeah, I found myself. So in 2012, I got married, had a baby, and moved all in the same year.
Oh,
And so I don't know if you've ever seen those charts that tell you about life stressors.
right,
Those are all like probably like the top three, and
right.
I was there. So I was pretty stressed out, and I found that I was trying to maintain my normal single person life
Mm,
professionally, but my personal life had changed completely, and I didn't really make adjustments in my professional life to account for that. And so I felt like I was just constantly going from thing to thing, never enjoying my life. And I had this baby I barely saw, and it just got to be untenable.
yeah.
And I was on vacation because I found that I couldn't even think about where I was mentally or emotionally until I was away, which is actually how I came up with the idea for A Weekend for Me is that you
Yeah.
need to be away to think. But anyway, I was away. I was sitting on a beach in Jamaica and I
Nice.
just got to thinking. I said, okay, you know what? I'm not well. And so I started to study what it meant to be well,
Mm,
which then led me to an organization in Charlotte called the Faith Health Institute.
mm,
And actually, for me, I found that kind of brought most things full circle because in college, I actually wanted to do my undergraduate degree is in psychology. I
okay.
actually considered psychobiology because I've always been interested in the way that our mind affects our bodies.
Mm,
And so now I've incorporated the spiritual piece as well.
nice. Okay, so tell me a little bit more about this institute.
So it's an institute in, like I said, Charlotte, North Carolina, and it trains people. It can be professional physicians as well as lay people. It trains people to lead other people through what they call the pathway to wholeness. And it looks at the relationship between your mind, your body, and your spirit, and honestly, how they are inextricably bound. So if you are not well in any one of those areas, you're not going to be well overall. And so, in order to find that balance that so much of us are looking for, we have to begin to look at all of those pieces.
Gotcha. So then how did you decide to incorporate that into A Weekend for Me?
Again, dealing with my own life.
Yeah.
So, what I did with the weekend for me is I planned the retreat I most wanted to attend. So, that was my focus. It was about what I felt that I needed and what I felt I heard a lot of other people saying that they needed. And so I truly believe that at the foundation, if you're not well mentally, physically, spiritually, it's impossible to find the balance that you're seeking. So that's how I tied the two concepts together.
Gotcha. So tell us a little bit more because we've been talking around it, but what exactly is a weekend for me? It is a retreat, but tell us
Yes.
a little bit more about it.
So weekend for me is a retreat for professional women. And the reason that I developed it again, I was going through my own situation of, I guess it's a form of burnout, but I didn't really recognize it as burnout at the
Yeah.
time. But I was going through my own situation and I realized that until I took time away from my normal daily activities and focused on myself, I couldn't even begin to diagnose the problem. And so that's what a weekend for me is about. It's about women being able to take time out from their normal lives to sit with themselves and like-minded women to actually take an honest look at your life. So we'll go through, it's a workshop based retreat, but there's plenty of time for rest and relaxation and spa services and things like that.
Nice.
But we actually go through a process where you look at the major areas of your life and you rate them and try to figure out if your life is in balance. It's actually the tool I use is called the wheel of life. And if your life is in balance, it will be a perfect wheel. If your life is out of balance, it's like a crazy looking Pac-Man or something. And so it helps you to identify areas where you want to target, to begin to target to get your life in balance.
Nice.
So, but it's a time, like I said, a time to get away to think about what you want, what's working for you. Because as I mentioned before, my life changed, but my professional life didn't change. My personal life changed. I had to reevaluate my priorities. So the priorities that I had when I was a single OBGYN are very different than I had as a wife and as a mother. And then let's throw in for good measure, my husband's a pastor. So as a pastor's wife,
Right.
so lots of hats, lots of responsibilities.
Right.
And so I had to look at what my priorities are. And so that's what I am encouraging in the attendees to look at their priorities and look at their life and try to see the two line up. Because if the way you're spending your time does not align with your stated priorities, you're not going to be satisfied with your life.
And I like that you added in the time for rest and spa services and things like that. Sometimes retreats can be like jam-packed.
Yeah, no, I don't like that. I like to have time because you learn things. And for me, I'm an introvert. So let's
Mhm.
start with that. So
Right.
it takes me, I need to digest. You can't feed me for an hour, 2 hours, and then just keep going and going. So
Right.
after about an hour, 2 hours, I want to digest, reflect, figure out how to integrate the new information into my life, those kinds of things. And so again, I was mindful of that and created what I most wanted to attend.
Okay, it sounds amazing. And is this going to be like an annual thing, or do you have other events in mind?
I actually envision this being a quarterly event, but I want to move it all over the country and even internationally. So this
Wow.
first one is in Maryland. It's on the eastern shore of Maryland, a town called Cambridge. And I actually chose Cambridge because it's my ancestral home, if you will. My parents are from there. Very pretty part of the state. The resort itself is on the water. So I
Nice.
chose it because it had some meaning for me. But my plan really is to move it all over the place because there are women who need this
Yeah.
everywhere. So not just I'm in the DMV, but not just the DMV ladies, but people everywhere. I want to do it quarterly. I want to move it around the country and also the Caribbean and places like that.
Yes.
Because what's more relaxing than the Caribbean?
Yes, exactly. So yeah, it sounds like an amazing event and retreat, and something that I feel like not only all professional women need, but especially Black professional women, because there are so many things that we deal with in that professional space. So it adds on to everything else you're talking about, right? So you're an
Yes.
OBGYN, the clinical work, wife, mother, pastors, first lady, is that's what you call
Yes,
it, right? Yeah.
that's what they say. I forget until Sunday, but that's what they say.
Right. And then you have to deal with the corporate part of what's going on at the job and even in other places. Those microaggressions are real. So I feel focusing on self-care for us particularly is so important. And I'm glad that it's finally coming to the forefront. And we're realizing that it's very important.
Yeah, I agree with you. I actually attended an event that a friend of mine had this
Mm.
weekend in Charleston, specifically for Black women. And what really struck me is that there were many women there who had never done any kind of self-care, never had a massage, never had a facial. And exactly, you're like, what heresy is this?
Yeah, the massage through me. Yeah, okay.
But it really surprised me because,
Yeah,
again, most of these are professional women, and they
right.
really had never taken the time to take care of themselves. Especially, like you said, Black women, we have been programmed to take care of everyone else
Mm.
and to put our needs last.
Yep.
I think it's just the way women in general, but especially Black women, we've been
Yeah.
programmed to ignore us.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, no massages. Sorry, I still can't even get over that. All right, we talked about your program and what's next. It's really exciting to hear you say you want to take it internationally and things like that because these issues are not just here in isolation. Is there anything else you would like people to know about you or your program?
In general, what I like people to know is that it's okay to reinvent yourself. I mentioned earlier that I call myself the pivot queen, and that's because I've reinvented myself any number of times. Anything that's stagnant is not growing. And so it's okay to check in with yourself from time to time and to tweak. And if things are not working, to change them. I was of the mind initially when I got out of medical school and residency and took my first job that I would stay there my entire career
Yeah,
because honestly, that's what I had seen. I had seen the older partners who'd been there for 20 years, and I assumed I would be like them. But circumstances, this is a whole different world of medicine that we practice in now
yeah,
than the world that they had. And so bearing that in mind became necessary to make changes. And I felt some kind of way about that at first, but now I understand that it's okay,
yeah,
that it's okay to make changes. It's okay to reinvent yourself and to seek new endeavors and new ideas. You don't have to stay in a box. I guess that's
right.
what I'm trying to say in a nutshell, that it is okay to be who you are in all of your authenticity. And it's okay to keep discovering different facets of that.
Yeah, and sometimes there's a lot of fear that comes with that, the fear of the unknown, especially when you're in a field like ours where you're so laser focused for so long. It's just, am I really going to do something else?
Well,
Because
you don't know what to do because like you
exactly.
mentioned in our field, everything is laid out for you from the beginning. You know the steps you have to take. And
Yeah,
when you start going off script, then you're in
yeah,
uncharted territory. That's
right,
very scary because you don't know what the outcome is. You know that if you get through medical school and you're going to get a residency spot, most likely.
right,
Once you get through residency, you're going to get a job, most likely. But
right.
this, you don't know what you're going to get. Like it's a box of chocolates.
Exactly. All right. So even though you just have your toe in clinical medicine, I think it's still, it's our identity almost, right? You are a physician, and that is your frame of reference when you're making a program like this. So tell me, because I ask everyone, what does it mean to you to be a Black OBGYN, especially providing this service for other professional women?
Well, I'm going to dissect that a little bit. So the
Okay.
Black OBGYN part is very near and dear to me because there are so many health disparities. And as a fellow OBGYN, we are the ones who die more often in childbirth. We receive subpar care. And I told you I recently started seeing patients just a few hours a week. And I saw a young woman yesterday who is 20. I walked in the room. She was on the phone with a friend. I walked in the room and she looked at me like, where'd you come from? And she says, are you the doctor?
Yeah.
And I said, I am. And she's on the phone. She goes, oh my God, there's Black and she's a woman. And the whole visit, she just kept talking about how excited she was to have a Black doctor. And that
Yeah.
really touched me. And I realized, we're only 2% of all doctors. And
Mhm.
so I realized how important it is that people still see that
Mhm.
for me, it's important that I still make that contribution.
Yeah. Me leaving corporate medicine, it's just like I left, but I know I still have more to do just because of exactly what you said. I can still contribute and make sure that we are seen and that patients feel like they can trust us because there's so much of that distrust.
Yes.
And, it when that happens, when somebody is so excited to see you, it's just okay, this is everything is worth it
Yes,
just for this
this is
moment.
it. This is my why.
This is it.
That's exactly, yeah. Because I had a friend who actually asked me, why are you doing that? Like,
Right.
why are you going in the office? And so I called her today and I said, that's my why.
There you go.
That is my why.
There you go. All right. So tell all viewers where they can find you and a weekend for me because it sounds amazing. All those people who's never had any relaxation, listen up.
Yes, definitely. So a weekend for me www.aweekendforme.com. I am on many platforms. Gaskins Tillett on Facebook, Dr. SGT, I believe, OB on
Don't worry,
Instagram.
I'll put a
I'm not,
caption.
yeah, it's something like that on Instagram. Dr. Sherita Gaskins Tillett on LinkedIn. And then I do have a Facebook group, Level Up Lady Doc, for women physicians.
Gotcha. All right. And of course, you can find his services on bydefault.com. So all of our physicians, whether they are practicing clinically or doing other amazing things, will be there so that you can find them easily, take advantage of these amazing services, and just live our best lives. That is what we are here for, just to help you feel loved, feel catered to, feel seen, and to have all the tools that you need to live your best melanated life. All right.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Dr. Sherita, for coming on. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Dr. Toya, and thank you for creating this space for us, by us. I love
Yes.
it.
Thank you. All right, guys, that's it. I'll see you next time on the next episode of the By Default Black Doctor Spotlight. Bye.